Monday morning, 6:30 a.m. Your hand reaches for your phone before your eyes are even open. 17 unread emails, 3 Slack messages, 1 calendar notification reminding you about the 9 a.m. meeting you've been dreading since Friday. And there it is again, that thought, the one that's become as routine as your morning coffee. I need to get out of here. But here's what happens next. You know this part. You get up, you shower, you choose an outfit, and somewhere between brushing your teeth and grabbing your keys, you talk yourself into staying. Just one more week, one more month, one more quarter. It's not because you're weak. It's not because you lack ambition. It's because your brain is running a program you didn't install, a psychological algorithm that's keeping you trapped without you even realizing it. It's called loss aversion, and understanding it might be the most valuable 15 minutes you spend this week. Let's break the pattern. Welcome to Book Takeaways for Professional Growth podcast, where we extract the most valuable insights from landmark books and apply them to the real challenges facing young professionals today. I am your host, Sophia. Today's episode is built around a single question. Why do smart people stay in jobs that make them miserable? The answer comes from Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman and his masterwork, Thinking Fast and Slow, where he shared research findings on decision-making and behavioral economics. Here's our promise. We're going to tell it like you've actually read it. Are you ready? Let's get started. Segment 1. The Uncomfortable Truth. I want to start with something that should terrify you. A 2019 study asked thousands of professionals about their biggest career regrets. 78%, more than 3 out of 4, said they wished they'd taken more risks. Not small risks, career-defining ones, the kind that change trajectories. And here's what makes this devastating. When researchers followed up with people who actually did take those risks, who quit the soul-crushing job, who switched industries, who bet on themselves, 90% reported being happier, less stressed, and more successful afterward. So we have two numbers that don't make sense together. 78% wish they'd taken the risk, but 90% who take it are glad they did. Why the gap? Because there's a force working against you. It's subtle, it's powerful, and it's probably running in the background of your mind right now. Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying how humans make decisions, and what he discovered changes everything. Your brain experiences losses as approximately twice as painful as equivalent gains. Feel good. Not a little more painful, twice as painful. Think about what that means when you're considering leaving your job. Your brain isn't calculating, if I leave, I could be happier, more fulfilled, and actually grow. It's screaming, you'll lose your salary, your benefits, your security, your identity, everything you've built. And because those losses register at double the intensity of potential gains, fear drowns out possibility every single time. This isn't a character flaw. It's neuroscience, and it's why you're still there. Segment 2. The pattern. How you get trapped. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Sarah. Sarah works for a tech company. 3 years ago, she got promoted to management. Better title, better pay, better benefits. For 6 months, she felt on top of the world. Then the cracks started showing. Her team got gutted during restructuring. Her boss became impossible, the kind of person who takes credit for wins and assigns blame for losses. 60-hour weeks became normal, then 70. The work that once energized her became something she had to survive. By year 2, Sarah was Googling signs of burnout at 2 a.m. She updated her resume. She scrolled through job postings. She even went to a few interviews. The other opportunities aren't quite right. The salary isn't high enough. Maybe things will get better here. But here's what was really happening. After 8 years at the company, Sarah had accumulated things: seniority, an office with a window, a 401k that was finally building, a network of colleagues who respected her work, a title that looked good on LinkedIn. All of these felt like possessions, and loss aversion turns possessions into prisons. The potential upside of leaving, happiness, growth, energy, purpose, barely registered compared to what she might lose. So she stayed. And this is where it gets insidious. There's something researchers call the locked-in effect. When you're in a job you've outgrown and you perceive your options as limited, you enter what they call the risk zone. In the risk zone, something cruel happens. You start losing energy. Your motivation drops. You stop developing new skills because you're just trying to make it through the day. And because you're not growing, your actual employability, your real options begin to shrink. You're not just trapped, you're becoming more trapped every day you stay. The cage is getting smaller and loss aversion is holding the door shut. Segment 3. The real cost, what you're actually losing. Let's do some uncomfortable math. Say you're making $80,000 at a job that's draining you. You tell yourself you're staying for the security, for the stability, to be responsible. That sounds rational, right? But here's what loss aversion won't let you see. You're in your 20s or 30s. You have decades of earning ahead of you, and research shows career changers don't just become happier, they typically earn more over their lifetime because they're not burned out. They're learning, they're energized, they're positioned to take opportunities instead of just surviving them. But forget money for a second. Let's talk about the costs you're not counting. The health cost, the chronic stress, the Sunday night dread that's so physical you can feel it in your chest, the medication some people need just to get through their workday. The opportunity cost. Every year you stay is a year you're not building expertise in something that excites you, and skills compound. The later you start, the less runway you have. The relationship cost. How present are you with your partner when you're mentally exhausted? How often do your friends hear you complain about the same problems with no plan to change them? The identity cost. Who are you becoming in this environment? Are you more cynical, more resigned? Is this shaping you into someone you want to be? Loss aversion doesn't make you think about these costs because they're not immediate. They're abstract, distant. Your brain is wired to fear the tangible loss right in front of you, not the slow erosion happening in the background. And here's the cruelest irony. The security you're afraid of losing, it's mostly an illusion. If your company has a bad quarter, is your job really secure? If your industry changes, does your title protect you? If there's a recession, are you certain you're safe? Real security doesn't come from one employer. It comes from being employable, from staying sharp, from developing yourself so that when change happens, and it always does, you have options. By clinging to safe, you're actually making yourself less secure. Segment 4. The breakthrough. How to escape. All right, so you know what's happening. Your brain is lying to you. Loss aversion is keeping you stuck, but knowing isn't enough. You need a way out. Here's the framework. It comes directly from Kahneman's research, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step. It's called the reference point reframe. Loss aversion isn't objectively real. It's relative to your starting point, your reference point. Right now, your reference point is, I have this job, so anything that moves you away from it feels like loss. But what if you change the reference point? Does it look like security, or does it look like years spent not growing, not energized, not pursuing what mattered? When you shift your reference point to the end of your life, staying becomes the loss. Reframe number 2, the abundance perspective. Most people operate from scarcity. What if I can't find another job? What if I fail? But shift your reference point to abundance. I have the freedom to choose. I've held one job, I can hold another. I have skills, I have experience, I have options. This isn't positive thinking, it's accurate thinking. If you've been employed once, you're employable again. The 3-step framework. Here's what you actually do. Step 1, make the true cost visible. Get a piece of paper. Write down what staying is actually costing you. Not in vague terms, in specifics. What hobbies have you abandoned? What relationships are strained? What skills are you not developing? Where will you be in 5 years if nothing changes? Loss aversion hides long-term costs. Make them visible. Step 2, rebuild your sense of options. The locked-in effect only works if you believe you're locked in. Spend 2 weeks researching, not job hunting, just exploring. What companies are hiring in your field? What adjacent roles use your skills? What do people like you typically earn elsewhere? What would a transition actually require? Step 3, separate real constraints from imagined ones. Maybe you have student loans, a mortgage, a family, those are real, but loss aversion is exaggerating them. Ask yourself, what would it take to address the real constraint with a plan? Could you build a 3-month emergency fund while still employed? Could you transition through a side project? Could you make a lateral move that pays the same but offers a better environment? Most people either stay paralyzed or make desperate moves. Both are suboptimal. The third path is strategic transition, intentional, planned. Segment 5, the evidence, what actually happens. Remember Sarah? She finally made the move, 15 years in one career, convinced she'd have to start from scratch. Within 10 weeks, she landed what she called her dream job. She didn't become more qualified overnight. She didn't get lucky, she just stopped seeing losses and started seeing possibilities. And here's what the data shows about people who make this shift. 90% report being happier after changing careers. Over 70% feel like a completely different person. Most experience a pay increase, not a decrease. The thing loss aversion doesn't want you to know, the risk of staying is greater than the risk of leaving. You're more likely to regret not having left than to regret leaving. That's what 78% of professionals are telling you. That's what people at the end of their careers wish they'd known. Segment 6, the question, what do you actually want? So here's what I want you to sit with. Not right now, but tonight or tomorrow when you have a quiet moment. What would your life look like if you stopped letting loss aversion make your decisions? If you actually prioritized your energy, your growth, your fulfillment, your potential, the person you're becoming? What would be different? I'm not asking this to make you feel guilty. I'm asking because most of us never actually ask. We drift. We let inertia and fear steer the ship. But here's what I know from the research, from stories like Sarah's, from patterns that play out again and again. You will almost certainly regret the risks you didn't take more than the risks you took. And if loss aversion is keeping you from even exploring your options, that's a problem worth solving. You don't have to quit tomorrow. You don't need to have it all figured out. But you might start with something small. Update your resume. Message someone working in a field that interests you. Take one online course. Apply to one job just to see what happens. Because here's the secret. When you take small actions, something shifts. The cage loosens. You remember you have agency, and that's where change begins. Before your next commute, do this. 1. Go back to step 1. Write down the true cost of staying. Make it real. Make it specific. Don't let your brain keep it abstract. 2. I'll link a worksheet in the show notes with the full framework and some questions to guide you through it. 3. Don't do this alone. Reach out to someone, a mentor, a coach, a friend who's made a transition. Isolation is part of what loss aversion uses against you. You know what's interesting? Loss aversion evolved to keep us safe. In our ancestral environment, losing food meant death. Your brain developed this bias because it helped you survive. But we don't live in that world anymore. Now, the real danger is staying still. The real risk is letting ancient programming run your modern life. So this week, just notice it. Notice when loss aversion is whispering to you. Notice when you're choosing fear over possibility. And remember, that 78% who wish they'd taken the risk, they eventually did. And 90% of them are happier for it. You could be in that 90%. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Let us know in the comments if we delivered on our promise to tell it like you've read it. If you found value in this episode, please share it to friends who might also benefit from this book's takeaway. Subscribe and follow so you wouldn't miss the next one. Keep growing.